an ever-changing world, Life Changes Network presents a voice of truth and inspiration, broadcasting on frequencies of love, laughter, and information, illuminating new paths for new directions as we, as one, strive for higher and higher planes of existence and a better understanding of ourselves and the world in which we live. Always remembering, life changes. This is radio like you've never felt before. This is Life Changes with Filippo. And now your host, our MC, the master of change, Filippo Voltaggio.
Ciao, everyone. I am really excited about today's show for so many reasons. Well, the first and main reason is because Mike Dooley is our guest on the show today. Now, Mike Dooley, I've known for several years now for several different reasons, and I'll share some of them with you in just a moment. But the thing is that as I was reading Mike's book, Manifesting Change, It Couldn't Be Easier, interestingly enough, I don't have the time, unfortunately, to read everybody's book that's going to be on the show and every book that I'm interested in out there. And so I usually just read a few chapters, or I read the chapters that are most important to the questions that I have about life or that we're going to talk about in the interview. But with Mike's, I read it from cover to cover. But better than reading it from cover to cover, I read it, and I promised myself that I wouldn't do like so many of the other books that I was doing even before we had the radio show, where I would read the book, and when the book had exercises in it, I would just say, yeah, I get that, and then move on without actually doing the exercise. But I actually looked forward to each of the exercises that Mike had in the book. And at the end of each chapter, I would not go any further until I actually took time to literally write out the exercises just as Mike outlined on here. And the reason was because I really felt like they really would work. And I really wanted them to work for me and my life and what's going on with life changes. And it's interesting because one of the exercises, for example, talks about write down things you've wanted in the past and gotten. And then it says, now write down things you haven't gotten and write them in between the ones that you have got already. And so you come to realize that what you haven't gotten yet, you just haven't gotten yet. And these things that you haven't gotten were actually things they're like the things that you hadn't gotten of the other things that now you got, if that's not confusing. It's actually not confusing, so I hope you got that. You'll have to read it in the book, and you'll have to do it because it's a really great exercise. And one of the things it reminded me of was actually when I first actually heard of Mike Dooley. I was actually sitting watching the movie The Secret with a friend of mine, and we were sitting watching this, and at the time I was doing a radio show called Filippo and the Chef. It was an Italian-American cooking show on radio, and the chef would actually cook on the radio, and I would bring in interview guests, et cetera, et cetera. Now, because I loved what John DeMartini was saying in The Secret, and he was Italian-American, I thought, oh, this would be great to have him on Filippo and the Chef. So I turned to my friend, and I nudged her, and I turned to her, and I said, I'm going to have that man on my radio show. And she said, of course you are, honey. And as soon as I got home, I looked up John DeMartini, and I contacted him the next morning, and wouldn't you know it, that he had not been in Los Angeles for years. And within 2 weeks, he was supposed to be in Los Angeles. So I spoke to his assistant. She said that he was completely booked, but she would try to do something. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, I had an interview with Dr. John DeMartini. So without thinking about this, all the concepts that we were watching in that film and that we were hearing from people like John and Mike, I was actually doing, but I wasn't all that conscious of it. And that's what Mike's book, Manifesting Change, helps us do, is become conscious of what you're actually doing or what you've been doing all your life. So the other interesting thing is as soon as we started Life Changes with Filippo, I thought to myself, oh, I wish we had started Life Changes with Filippo back when The Secret came out, because it would have been great to interview all these people from The Secret. Well, I said that. I meant that. And without even trying or really thinking about it, it's interesting how we have actually interviewed Lisa Nichols on video a couple times, John DeMartini a couple times, Marcy Shimoff on radio, John Asseroff on the red carpet, Jack Canfield on video, Marie Diamond on video, Bob Proctor, Joe Vitale. I mean, the list goes on. And these are people from The Secret. And now we're going to get to interview Mike Dooley. So, Mike Dooley has also been known for something that he does, and he'll talk more about this, called Messages from the Universe, TUT.com. Anyway, I got an invitation on August 9th, just a few days ago, from a friend of mine who wrote me, "Not sure if you already subscribe to this, but I absolutely love it, and know you will too. Honestly, one of the sweetest things I ever did for myself was to subscribe to this beautiful daily message. Oh, and it's free. Yay! Join me in the joy and daily smiles. Love, Yvette." Now, Yvette had no idea that we were actually going to be interviewing the man who created these messages from the universe on our show exactly, 5-6 days later. I wrote her back, "Ciao, Yvette. How good to hear from you. And how timely are you? The creator of Tut is our guest on our show this coming Monday. Mike Dooley. How connected are you? Love you, missed you, look forward to seeing you soon. Filippo." And this is what Yvette responded. Unsolicited. "Ciao, Filippo. Wow. What an interesting synchronicity. That should be an awesome interview. I can't wait to hear it. Mike's work is wonderful, and I love the energy of his spirit. I have been a subscriber to the message service for quite a while, and am continually blown away by the uncanny timeliness of each message. Sometimes it feels as if he is peering into my life and knows just what to say and when. So many times I have been touched to tears and had my breath taken away, but always, I am left with a smile and a chuckle, just like life. I guess that is because they really are messages from the universe. Anyway, I love them and am so grateful for that gift in my life. It's exactly why I wanted to share it with you so much. Big hug. There was more. Please tell him how much I look forward to meeting him, because she says she's going to go to his event in Austin, and have a wonderful interview. Do you do any other kind? Smiles, big hugs, kisses, and so much love, appreciation, gratitude. Yvette Crosby." How perfect is that? And with that, I'm going to leave you, and so we can get our interview with Mike Dooley right after these messages.
Clean water is not enough. Reverse osmosis, distilled water, and most bottled waters are devoid of naturally occurring minerals. They are acidic, unstructured, and hard to absorb, and rob minerals from the body. Ionways ionizers produce a super abundant supply of powerful antioxidants in each glass. Ionized water has a reduced molecular cluster size and a negative charge, hydrating you up to 6 times better. Water from an Ionways ionizer will help you restore your body to its natural pH balance, boosting your vitality. And ionized water more effectively flushes acidic toxins from within your body. Drink the healthiest water available today. Ionways Water Systems, their water changes everything. To learn more about Ionways Water Systems and how you can own one today, visit our website at lifechangeswithfilippo.com and click on our sponsor page. You are listening to Life Changes with Filippo on the BBS Radio Network with your host, Filippo Voltaggio. You can visit us online via Twitter and Facebook and at lifechangeswithfilippo.com. That's Filippo, Filippo.
I'm Filippo Voltaggio, and our guest today, as you know, is Mike Dooley, who is a former PriceWaterhouseCoopers international tax consultant turned entrepreneur who's founded a philosophical adventures club on the internet that's now home to over 350,000 members from over 189 countries. His inspirational books have been published in 23 languages, and he was one of the featured teachers in the international phenomenon The Secret. Today, Mike is perhaps best known for his Notes from the Universe, emailings, and his New York Times bestseller, Infinite Possibilities, The Art of Living Your Dreams. Although today we'll be talking more about his next New York bestseller, to be sure, Manifesting Change, It Couldn't Be Easier. Mike lives what he teaches, traveling internationally, speaking on life, dreams, happiness, and with us here on Life Changes with Filippo. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Filippo. It's great to be with you.
It's great to have you with us. And this is exciting for all the reasons I mentioned before. And how do you like that introduction?
My gosh, I wrote down Yvette's name, and I look forward to giving her a hug in Austin on my tour in a couple of weeks. Wonderful, over the top. Thank you very much.
Well, you know, and I do know that there are probably 350,000 people so far that say exactly the same thing. And where do these messages come from?
My gosh, it's uncanny, because that is what I hear from people all over the world, in person and over the internet, that the synchronicity of the message, it's as if I was a fly on the wall watching them, almost spooky. And it's almost spooky to me because I hear it so often, knowing that they came about in the most conventional way, which is how I view spirituality. I mean, nothing is not spiritual. Matter, as the Note from the Universe once said, is pure spirit, only more so, to the point that it's dense and we experience it. So my conventional launch came from the seeming ruins of a T-shirt gift company. We were ahead financially. Mom, Andy, and I, Andy's my brother, we had sold 1 million T-shirts in 10 years. But 11 years ago, we decided to wind it down and split the cash pie, and I could coast a couple of years while I figured out what I would do. And that brought about perhaps the most scary time of my entire adult life, because I didn't know what would come next. And even though I could coast for 2 years, which might sound like, and is in fact, a great luxury, we all have different relativity levels. I couldn't sleep, for fear of, what if I don't figure out the rest of my life? What am I going to be when I grow up? I'm starting over. Why am I starting over? How did this happen? And as I teach now to my audiences, all manifestations, as you read in Manifesting Change, come about with really a very simple two-step process. Number one, define what you want in terms of the end result, and ideally it ought to be generally stated. And number two, take action, show up, baby steps, do stuff every day, no matter how seemingly futile it will be. And so that's where I was 11 years ago. The general end results I had were wealth and abundance. Nobody wants to have to worry about where their next paycheck's coming from. Creative, fulfilling work, friends and laughter, and travel. Those were my 4 end results. And literally, by this stage in my adult life, almost 40 years old, I didn't know what hat to wear next. I had done the accounting thing, certified public accountant. I'd done the entrepreneurial thing. Both were, for the most part, very successful. So I remember telling the universe, in my own mind, God, or whatever you call it, that look, I'd like to live abundantly, creatively filled, love what I'm doing, have friends, and travel. How I get there, I have no flippin' idea. You figure it out. It's beyond me. I humbly surrender. But even as I said that, I knew, as we all do know, that I had to do stuff. And I wasn't going to say, I'm going to do this and make it happen. I was like, I'm going to dabble with the website. I'm going to dabble with online marketing. I'm going to dabble with joining Toastmasters to get over my fear of speaking in public. I'm going to dabble with creative writing. I might put together a couple of products, a book, an audio program, and not insist on any of them. And that's one of my biggest messages. Do not insist on the cursed hows. They are the bane of our experience. You cannot know how a dream will come true. Yet if you cling to one possibility, you exclude others. So I had general end results, leaving the universe the latitude to connect the dots in the shortest, quickest way possible. And then every day I was like, what else can I do? Who else can I call? Where else can I show up, network, ask for help? Always ask for help. Ask those who are doing what you're doing, what the tricks are, what it was like in the beginning, and 9 out of 10 times they'll be thrilled to give you their life's, worldview. And that led to one of the doors I knocked on of sending out these emails that evolved from being Mike's mailings, Mike's Monday Morning Motivators, to 8 months later, a daily note from the universe, written from the universe's perspective, really short, sometimes one sentence long, rarely more than 2 paragraphs, designed to remind people of life's magic and their power. Because with the truth, you automatically start getting miracles, or as was phrased by others, it'll set you free. And the truth is what most people are missing. It's how they give their power away. It was a long 2 years, but within 2 years I was speaking professionally. Within 3 years I was on my first world tour. Now 11 years later, fast forward, thank you for the things you mentioned in your intro, but I'm living a fairy tale. And this is what I teach to my folks. Anything can happen. Dreams do come true every day. If you define what you want in terms of the end result and then get conventional, network, hobnob, knowing what you know spiritually, law of attraction, thoughts become things, you will start stoking a fire that has never been stoked before, and you'll become unstoppable.
Mike, for better or for worse, this was one of the things that I really, really liked about you, and that I think you're such a great example of this work and everything that you're talking about. Because with some people you could say, their parents were so-and-so, so of course they ended up doing blah, blah, blah. Or so-and-so's parents were so wealthy, of course they had all the benefits of being able to blah, blah, blah. But learning from your books about you and how you talk and all of that, like you were just this guy, and in a sense you still are this guy that just is, and you don't pretend to be anything else, and you don't pretend that you were anything else. But the point is that nobody knew about you 10 years ago, even though you had done well in a company and all that, and you started applying these messages that were coming through you and these understandings, and even you were afraid to get up and speak, so you joined Toastmasters so you could speak, and now you're speaking, and people are paying you to speak and fly you around the world. So you are a great example that this actually works.
Thank you, Filippo. And of course we all are just human, but I don't mind sharing the conventional side of my, fears and setbacks and crises, because perhaps it will make it more real for someone else. And the truth of it is, what one person has done, anybody can do, particularly given that we live in a world of illusions. We live in a world that we create with our own thoughts. It is as simple as the fact that our thoughts unfailingly become the things and events of our lives. And understanding this brings abundance where there was poverty, health where there was sickness, fulfillment where there was confusion. It sounds like a cliche. It's easy. Put it this way, it's easier than any other way. That doesn't mean that the rest of your life will be, dancing on a yellow brick road, but the yellow brick road does appear when you set out on that dirt path, even when there's question marks, even when there's doubt, always when you don't know how your dream's going to come true. Still, take those steps. The universe will connect the dots for you, and the next thing you know, you'll be like, wow, how did I ever get here? Which is a question, I don't like to ask in a negative or in a way that kind of presumes that I'm totally daft, but it implies that I am more than I realize, as every listener is more than they realize. And if they can confidently move forward with understanding and not give their power away to an angry judgmental God or to karma or misunderstanding ancient spiritual contracts, and realize that the buck stops with them and they can have it. Just look at the people who already have what you have. None of them are any smarter than us. None of them are any braver than us. They just kind of stuck stuck it out when others kind of lost hope, or they started out when others would never have started out.
You know, everything you said, it actually, what you're also saying in the book is the opposite is actually true, in the sense that you could bring illness where there was none and poverty where there was none, right? By our thoughts.
That's right. But there's an exciting twist to that. But I don't want to interrupt you.
No, actually, please do, because I don't want to keep down that path. But we're already using our thoughts.
It becomes overwhelming when you finally recognize the truth. You know, at first, and every reader or listener right now can relate. You know, when all of a sudden you saw The Secret for the first time, or you read a Wayne Dyer book, or you read Illusions by Richard Bach, or you tuned into the Filippo show, and you've got this idea that, like, yes, I knew it, I'm not alone. It's elation, it's joy, you're bouncing off of the walls. But then comes the all-important realization is now it's time to apply this stuff, to live this stuff. And this is when the lions and tigers and bears come out of the woodwork. And then people start raising their hand in my audiences if they're new to this stuff, and they're like, oh my God, but I don't know that I could do this because I'm not as positive as you. And it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know too many people who could be more negative than me at times in my life. But in spite of negativity, how did I get here? It's because we are the eyes and the ears of the divine. Every listener literally is pure God. God doesn't go where God doesn't know what's going to happen. God doesn't go where there's a 50-50 shot of survival. We are here to thrive. Every one of us chose to be here in some forgotten realm with the intent of thriving, not with the intent of, am I going to make it? With dreams that could all come true, or what's the point? You're God. You don't have to go where you're doomed. And God doesn't choose a lifetime to say, well, let me just see what it's like to be poor, miserable, lonely, and sick. It's like, no, you might be born onto a stage where it seems like the cards are stacked against you, but it would have been the adventurous nature that's inherent in you that would have picked that challenge on the sole condition that every one of those beasts before you could be slain, that you could move on, that you could live the life of your dreams. We are here to thrive, and we chose the stage of our life so that we could do exactly that. The current is moving with us. The current is moving in the direction of smiles, laughter, health, friends, abundance. When we think a positive thought, it gets picked up by that current, and it makes sense with regards to the truth of reality, who you are, and why you're here. When you think a negative thought, like I'm an idiot, I'm not popular, I'm ugly, I can't lose weight, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, you're God. You chose to be here. You're all-powerful. There's no limits. There's no litmus test. You don't have to earn it. You're already in the winner's circle that you're even alive in time and space right now. So thinking a negative thought, it's like, what the heck was that? It doesn't go with the magnificence that still sustains you. So this leads to the realization that it's as if our positive, empowering, loving thoughts are at least 10,000 times more powerful than our negative, fearful, hateful thoughts. A thought is a thought, and it's only judgment that says one is the other, and they all strive to become things. But when you consider the body of work that we are that got us here, then you realize that you are far more likely to succeed than fail, to have friends than be sick, to laugh than to cry. And all of our lives are proof of this. Every one of your listeners, take stock of your life. Haven't you always had some money rather than been flat broke in the negative? Haven't you always had more health than you've had sickness? Hasn't there always been a friend or two or 200 rather than absolute destitution? All of our lives are a testament to our inclination to succeed and to thrive. And this is part of the truth. This is the truth I was just talking about. When you see this, and it's staring you in the face every single day, and then you realize the only thing between you today and where you dream of being are the thoughts you think between now and then. Obviously, your words are your thoughts. Obviously, your actions are your thoughts, and both are incredible. It's just up to you now to start walking the walk to the best of your ability, no matter what the question marks are, no matter how frightened you are, no matter how confused you are. And that's all this current needs that brought you here to blast you forward. And again, look at the people who live in abundance. They're not rocket scientists. Look at the people who are on TV making, 7 figures a season or an episode or a year. They've got nothing on any listener in this audience, except somehow they put themselves in a situation where they entitled themselves through wisdom or naivety to dreams and to do something about their dreams. And that's all we have to do. Point being, our positive thoughts are at least 10,000 times more powerful than our negative thoughts. But yes, if all we thought were negative thoughts, there would be a downward spiral and lots of unpleasant surprises.
So when did you start thinking like this? I'm thinking back when you left the T-shirt company or you sold it, and eventually your savings started to dwindle, and you still didn't feel like you were the best speaker you could, and you're getting yourself ready to do speeches at Toastmaster, and you still don't know what you're going to do with your life. What's the talk that you talk then rather than now, or was it the same?
Well, I think we choose our lives with certain kind of hidden agendas, none of which are set in stone. And if you don't know what your agenda is, don't worry, it's going to show up one day. It need be the last thing on your mind right now. But I would say that one of my agendas, if you will, or a probability, which I'd prefer, is the likelihood or the fact that I might become a teacher. I have always felt like I have something to say. And since the time I was 13 or 14 years old, my nose was in hypnosis books and ESP books and UFO books and Bigfoot books because I just knew there was something out there. And by the time I was 20, my mother sent me a couple of books that just made everything click. So I've known this stuff since I was 20, which was all the more reason that I was shocked that it was me, of all people, 11 years ago, who was frightened to pieces that I had made some big mistakes in my life, sabotaged things, and fallen off the tracks. How could I have done that after 20 years of knowing about what is now phrased as the law of attraction? And this is what I did. I remember thinking to myself, and this is the advice I give to anybody in a crisis right now, or anybody who's been through the ringer, who's been violated as a child, as an adult, whatever. You don't have to explain where you've been, nor do you have to explain where you are to know how to move forward. And I remember thinking, I don't know how I created this mess. And some conventional wisdom would be like, well, you better figure it out. No one's going to figure it out for you. If you don't figure it out, you're not going to move forward. And it's like, no, I can't go there. It's too painful. It's too mysterious. I don't know what the answers are. If I go rummaging around looking for what's wrong with me, I knew I would find journals worth of stuff wrong with me, and then it would take me decades or the rest of my life to undo it all. It's like, look, I'm not having it. Nothing's wrong with me, perhaps. Let me define what I want and start doing something about moving forward. And then, lo and behold, within a couple of years, having thought that I had to start my life over at 39, approaching 40, up until that point, I was writing about life, dreams, and happiness in a metaphysical way, and putting it on souvenir T-shirts that sold in tourist markets all over the world. And I was starting over. Well, 3 years into this journey, I'm now sending out emails that are about life, dreams, and happiness in a metaphysical way. I'm winning Toastmaster speeches eventually. I'm speaking at Unity churches and Rotary clubs anywhere for free just to have experience. And I'm continuing to talk about the truth. And that's one benefit this career as a teacher has. You teach best what you most need to learn, was said by Illusions and many other people, Richard Bach's book, Illusions. And this doesn't mean that you're clueless or dumb when you start teaching something, but it's like you're onto something and you want clarity for yourself. And for every person out of 100,000 that I've met in person in my audiences, and I've said, thoughts become things, I've been speaking to myself. So it gave me the opportunity to just really immerse myself in this kind of thinking, because it became my career 11 years ago. And then I suddenly realized 3 years into it, when things were really clicking and I'm on my first world tour, that it's like, oh my God, the train never crashed 11 years ago. It just changed tracks. It changed tracks in a way that with my physical senses, at the time it was changing tracks, the conclusion was it's all bad. This is all bad. Something's wrong with me. Don't know what it is. Not going to try to figure. But nothing bad had happened. I had dreamed while I was writing for my T-shirt company that I would reach more people one day. And suddenly I'm reaching tens of thousands of people every single morning through these Notes from the Universe emails. It was the beginning of a dream come true that at face value in the moment of the transition looked like a train wreck. And this is all the more reason that you need not explain where you are right now. It's probably beyond your intellectual ability to grasp it, but do not draw the false conclusion that something's wrong with you, that you got to figure out, and you got to find that invisible limiting belief before it does more damage. It's like baloney. You can navigate around your invisible limiting beliefs by having a dream that's defined generally, abundance, friends, laughter, health, and then getting excited about it by visualizing the details, just not attaching to the details. All of that's in my book. And then show up every day, no matter how futile it seems, and it will seem futile, and do stuff, and the universe will connect the dots, and whatever your invisible limiting belief may have been, and it may not even have existed, you will skirt yourself around it. And I'm 50 now, and I've seen this happen again and again in my life, where I decided not to look for what was wrong with me, and then lo and behold, later on, I could find no trace of it. Moreover, my life was a testament that I do believe in abundance. I do believe in the magic. I do believe that dreams come true because all of it's happened to me. So the key lesson there is, don't assume something's wrong with you. You don't have to explain how you got where you are or where you've been in order to know the truth about moving forward. And when you know the truth about moving forward, you start playing those buttons, you start playing those cards, you dream, you visualize once a day for 5 minutes, you show up, you make the cold calls, you do the conventional stuff, and you're on your way.
I like it. We are on our way. And we're talking to our guest today, who's Mike Dooley, author of the New York Times bestseller, Infinite Possibilities. And today we're talking about his new book, Manifesting Change. It Couldn't Be Easier. If you want to learn more about Mike, go to www.lifechangeswithfilippo, or you can go directly to his website and subscribe to his Notes from the Universe at www.tut.com. That's tut.com. We'll be right back with Mike Dooley and some more of his life lessons and manifesting change right after this.
There are self-help seminars costing thousands of dollars guaranteeing miraculous transformations. There are compelling speakers and life-changing weekend experiences where you can walk on fire. They all deliver revelations that guarantee you'll come back for the more expensive revelations filled with even greater wonder next month on Fiji. We get addicted to positive, heartfelt, expensive theater. What we really need is a jumpstart, an awakening. Someone who can give us a reminder that everything we need lies within. Through inspiration and practical knowledge, Dorothy Donahue helps people get grounded and motivated, inspired and energized. It's not just words and affirmations and the power of intention. It's a mindset brought about by a tangible, transcendental experience, an audio-visual, physical, spiritual experience that helps us realize we transform ourselves. We get tools to become the conscious co-creators of lives of unlimited potential. Find out more. Go to DorothyDonahue.com.
You are listening to Life Changes with Filippo on the BBS Radio Network with our host, Filippo Voltaggio. You can hear tonight's show and all our past shows, which include luminaries such as David Wilcock, Mariel Hemingway, Georgios Tsoukalos, Marcy Shimoff, and Shadow Stevens on our archive page at our website at lifechangeswithfilippo.com. That's Filippo, Filippo.com. Remember, you can also connect with us via Twitter and Facebook, and now in our own community at lifechangesnetwork.com, where real people come together to share real life in real time. That's lifechangesnetwork.com.
Well, we're back. I'm Filippo Voltaggio, and our guest today is Mike Dooley, and we're talking about manifesting change. And Mike, as I've gotten to know you more and more through the years, and you talk about your brother Andy quite a bit, and I gotten to see some of his YouTube videos and read some of his things, and I'm thinking that there's one thing in particular. First of all, I love the relationship that you two have, that you share with us, and that's really helpful. I mean, it for those of us who have brothers and sisters or friends, there's something very powerful about the relationship that you two are sharing with us. Makes us feel like we can do some of the same things. And I'm referring to one thing in particular. You two, you say, play with pretending. It's as if, I have to say this, it's as if you're still kids and you're still playing and it's working. So please share that with us.
Oh, well, I think you're right. And, there's a kid in all of us, and it's only by overthinking and getting too serious that we lose track of that kid. But yeah, Andy and my mother, when we had our T-shirt business, would get together on Tuesday mornings to get away from the office, the employees, etc., and to kind of just, well, it's what people call today a mastermind group. We would get together and just get psyched and stoked about the dream of selling a trillion T-shirts and making massive money and traveling the world, for the fun of it. Not because money was all that mattered, but it was a benchmark for success and freedom. And so, we were working, and that's what we did. And we often would kind of play this game where we would go around the table after sharing readings or epiphanies of the week before, where we would speak about each of our own dreams, like in the past tense, like it's already done. And I'd be like, man, I just finished my home in Oahu. It's on the windward side. You guys are going to flip over the waterfall through the master bedroom. It's just to die for. And on one of these experiences, it was all fake, but we literally challenged ourselves to speak with a straight face. And this just evolved. We didn't come up with the rules. And then compliment each other. And then we started to speak about each other's dreams, because I knew what Mom was up to and what she aspired to, and she was writing books even then. And Andy, I think, was going to be a rock star at that point or something. And I remember saying, oh, Mom, when you're done filming the animated version of Dandelion, your little novel about the horse, you'll be in L.A. with Spielberg. So why don't you jump on a plane in 2 months when you're finished and join me at my housewarming party? And Andy, I'm going to send you my private jet, and you and your friends come on over, and we'll have a month off in Oahu. And then Andy was quick to retort, well, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I've got an entourage now, Mike, and your jet's too small. So I'd be like, okay, get there however you want. But then it would be his turn. He would talk about his dreams, and he would talk about mine. And we'd sit there waiting to see who could kind of up the ante in the most believable way. And the exercise is designed to not only get you to think thoughts, but to kind of justify them, to kind of move into them. How did you get there? What were the considerations? What were the challenges? What did you overcome? What are your priorities now that you're already accomplished? And I think I shared this in Manifesting Change, but a funny thing happened years later, and we still play this kind of game in different regards. I had heard from a husband and wife, huge celebrities in L.A. They were fans of The Secret. They liked my bio, and they invited me over to dinner the next time I'd be in L.A. And after the conversation, I had to call Andy because just to share it. And I'm trying not to give away who they are just for privacy's sake, so I have to temper this sharing a bit. But basically, I picked up the phone and said, Andy, you won't believe who's just invited me to dinner next time I'm in L.A. And he's like, who? And then I told him, and it was really funny because there's a famous dinner scene with this actor, very famous dinner scene. And, he was like, no way. And I'm like, really? And he's like, well, that's cool. What are you doing now? And I said, I'm writing. And he said, well, stop everything. Come over because I'm having a barbecue out back and Jay-Z and Beyonce just showed up. And I'm like, no, Andy, I'm telling you the truth. This is real. And he said, what? And I said, real. And he said, I can't hear you, Mike. There's a helicopter landing. I think it's Robin Williams. Come over now. And we do continue to play this game. It's goofy, it's silly, but usually we go beyond more than I'm sharing right now, and we'll explain, we'll justify, we'll talk about the nuances. And not only is the game fun, but we're thinking thoughts that will become things in our life, and thoughts that have become things in our lives.
Mike,
playing never ends.
You did share that in the book, and that's one of the things that I really liked. And what it made me think of is so often we play that game, but it usually is the opposite. Like, well, I might be sick. Like, it could be cancer, and if it's cancer, then it's this, and then that would happen. And all of a sudden you're playing this pretend game when the person hasn't even gone to the doctor, but they feel a lump or they feel right. We play pretend games. It's usually to our detriment than to our benefit.
That's so true and funny, and it reminds me of a very brief note from the universe that's one of my favorites, if I may. The universe, sends in the email, couldn't you just pretend you're a multi-millionaire? Right after you're done pretending you're not. The universe. And then the PS was like, it's all pretend. It is. We live in a dream world. We live in a house of mirrors, so to speak, and the true secret has been, since the dawn of time, men and women have been creating their existence in effect as streaming manifestors, but none of us have known it. So we react to what we've manifested, not knowing we manifested it, and by giving it that much attention as if it was real, it's perpetuated in our life. And all we have to do, all we've ever had to do to change our experiences when they don't please us, is to create a new end result in our mind and start physically acting as if it was already a reality, as we simultaneously take baby steps in the direction of that reality. And this is how we morph our experiences into something that will exceed even our own imagination.
Actually, I lost everything you just said there because I was seeing us on television having this conversation, and then I saw somebody coming up and giving us an Emmy for the best show. And
that's how it happens, Filippo. And so many celebrities say, I dreamed of this moment my entire life. It's like, the evidence is everywhere. Dreams come true, thoughts become things. And I love that dream, so I'll see you on stage.
Absolutely. I wish we wouldn't have to let you go so soon. I know you're a busy man, and it was hard, and yet it wasn't to get you on the show. I mean, you said yes right away. It was just coordinating schedules. But there again, it was one of these things that I at first didn't believe would be possible to get you, because you're so busy and you're doing so many things. And then it's just like, well, wait a minute, let's pretend. And literally I was writing people saying, guess who's going to be on our show? Mike Dooley, before you even said yes. And so, and then I read the book, and then I thought, oh, that's what it is. That's what it is. So, if you have these one-liners that you give, and they make so much sense, and you just thoughts become things. It's so ominous and so wonderful at the same time. Can you say that in another way, please?
Oh my gosh, I hate to deviate from my favorite three words in the whole English language, but another way, dreams come true. And with our inclination to succeed, with our reason for being here to thrive, you don't have to worry about your baggage. You don't have to worry about your negativity. And if you can't stop that runaway train of fear, let it run. Laugh at it. But sit down and visualize for at least 4 or 5 minutes in the morning. And that alone will turn the tide, particularly when you take action, show up every day with baby steps, doing what you can with what you've got from where you are.
Wow. You're so Mike-nanimous. You know that?
Oh, Filippo, mi hombre. Thank you very much. I'm learning Spanish. Mi hermano is what I was aiming for.
I can't wait to meet you in person. And if Andy's got an entourage and won't accept the private plane, I will. Anytime you invite me to your house on the wind side of Hawaii, I'm there.
Oh, mahalo! It's a date. Looking forward to it.
So
bring Yvette, okay?
That would be a pleasure. And until then, I want to remind everybody that, of course, the book is called Manifesting Change. It couldn't be easier. And you could get the notes from the universe, which you are still personally writing, right?
Yeah. 2,500 have been written, and a new one goes out every weekday. I take the weekends off. Okay,
and that's at www.tut.com, as in tut.com. Our guest has been Mike Dooley, and this has been such a pleasure in manifesting you here with us today. Thank you, Mike.
Well, it's been all mine. Thank you, Filippo and team.
All right, ciao, ciao.
Life Changes with Filippo is a premier radio show presented by Life Changes Network, which is a company whose team has dedicated their lives not only to positive change, but to helping others observe and embrace, honor, and even celebrate their own changes, thus enabling a more positive, inspired life and helping to create a more positive and inspired world. From everyday people to corporate giants, celebrities, and children, we are here to help and to serve. With heart and experience, we bring our message and positive intent into your home or corporate office, and even through appearances on your favorite shows. If you wish to learn more about Life Changes life coaching and a private consultation with one of us, corporate event appearances, or if you would like us to appear on your radio or TV shows, visit lifechangeswithfilippo.com and click on our representation page. You are listening to Life Changes with Filippo on the BBS Radio Network with your host, Filippo Voltaggio. You can visit us online via Twitter and Facebook and at lifechangeswithfilippo.com. That's Filippo, Filippo.
Well, I'm Filippo, and we're back, this time with Mark Lejour, our producer, and for our rapception.
Well, wait, Filippo, before we get started, I got to tell you that Brad and Angie called while we were on commercial break saying that they loved your interview with Mike so much that they wanted to come on and talk about their work with children and the sustainability community and anything else we wanted to discuss.
Wow, that's so exciting. And I wanted to tell you that we've got a note from Lady Gaga who has invited us to dinner so we could talk about this more.
That's excellent. That's excellent. We're on a roll.
We are on a roll. We have been talking with Mike Dooley, who has just finished his book, Manifesting Change. It couldn't be easier. And you heard Mark and I manifesting right there. Right before your very ears.
The perfect example, and we do. We've especially since talking about having Mike on the show, we play that little game as well, and knowing it's really just a subset of the bigger game that we're playing all day long. As he said, we're living in this dream world, so making it happen.
Yeah, and you know, Mark, it's interesting because as children, we're told to play these games, or some of us were, to help expand our mind. Well, what, all of a sudden our mind doesn't expand anymore as adults, or we don't need to expand it? And it just dawned on me while listening to Mike during the interview that if we do play this game, and maybe it's not a game, maybe it's an exercise, maybe we're too mature to think of ourselves as playing, quote unquote, but what if it's an exercise? What if this is exercising our muscle? Like, you know what I mean? It's like you're at the gym, and the only way to get bigger muscles is to push our muscles beyond the normal flexing that we do, and so maybe using our mind in this way is pushing our brain muscles, so to speak, beyond what we normally think about. And whether it becomes manifest or not, within that exercise, we might actually come up with things like, oh, you know what, actually, we never actually thought about having that person on the show or something. Maybe it's worth looking into, and it came from that exercise.
Well, not only can you say maybe this effect happens, but I'd take it a step further, and I'd say I bet you, because they've done studies with meditation. Meditation, in essence, is another way of referring to prayer. If you go back to ancient scriptures, and that your brain reacts, your brain goes into a different state. Therefore, you are emitting different types of waves and frequencies. So I'll just bet you, when you're imagining, when you're visualizing, when you're meditating to connect the dots, you are sending out a certain frequency. So there, if we stay in our left brain and don't play the games and don't imagine and don't imagine, interesting choice of words, by not exercising that muscle, we aren't sending out those frequencies because we're too busy stuck thinking about it rather than imagining it and feeling it and putting it out there.
You know, that's interesting, and it's also interesting that you mentioned religion. I think that was the word you used, but that having read the Bible once or twice, there is somewhere in there, I don't remember if it was Paul who said it or somebody, that when you pray as if you already have what it is that you're asking for. Aha.
Bingo. Well, there you go. Perfect example. It keeps it relevant and brings it home.
Although that's not how I was taught. It's interesting. That never was driven home.
No, it wasn't driven home because I certainly wasn't taught that way. I was raised in a kind of an old school conservative Catholic family, and we were certainly taught to pray. But for me, I grew up. I started recognizing it as tradition and habit rather than feeling and intent. And that was kind of, now I can explain it as that, but I could recognize that there is a disparity between those two ideas and the two approaches.
Yeah. Oh, I just had this vision of being dragged to my mother's rosary group, where all these ladies would get around and pray the rosary, and because there would be nobody home to watch me if I stayed home, and I was too young, so I'd be dragged to these things, and they would sit around and pray the rosary, but at the same time, I'd be watching these people because they would be gossiping about each other while they're right in the middle of a prayer. They'd turn to someone next to them and look at her over there. How could she be sitting there as if nothing ever happened? And then go back to the praying. And I'm thinking, I wonder.
Well, it goes hand in hand with the guy that was a pew over, and the peace be with you, and shake the hand, and then you're watching him get cut off in the parking lot on the way out of the parking lot.
Exactly. Like, what the heck was that? And how much does this really serve anybody? So it's interesting. Yes, these concepts have been around, but they haven't become part of us. They weren't part of our lives, and it's great to have these reminders, like Mike, and this book, Manifesting Change. It's great to have been reminded. Like something happened to me the other day, and under normal circumstances, I would have just gone about my day and say, "Oh, that was cool," and this thing that happened. But because I was focused on this book and how we actually manifest things, I made myself think about what just happened, which was a good thing, but it wasn't that big a deal. Well, but it was, because it was 2 months beforehand that I had asked for this and then completely forgotten about it. And then all of a sudden it happened. I thought, oh, wow, this is cool. This happened. Great. And I was about to go on with the rest of my life, as opposed to stopping and saying, hey, I asked for this and I got it. This shit works. I mean, excuse the expression, but, it's like, this works.
Yeah, that's the big disconnect with learning, and as you were starting to say at the beginning of this segment, this discussion, is the things we're taught to do when we're kids versus what we learn to do or have been retaught as adults. And there's a huge disconnect between thinking and feeling. We're in many aspects taught not to feel, especially when you get into business, right? It's just business. But you realize when you go through that the exercise and a lot of things that now we're waking up to in terms of being reality are driven by feeling, and you cannot disconnect the two. And so therefore, a lot of that habitry needs to be relearned and put back in place in terms of using intent and using feeling along with and or to anchor your thoughts.
That's exactly right. And where have our thoughts been anchored up until now? And it's interesting that I mentioned John DeMartini at the beginning of the show, and here I'm reminded of him again with what you're saying, that there was a time when I said to him that I had nothing to say. And he says, but you want to say something. And I said, yes, I want to be a speaker. And he says, well, you are. And I said, but I'm not, because I don't have the stories like you do. I don't have the information like you do. And he says, but you do. And I said, but I don't. And he said, because you're not telling yourself that you do. Start telling yourself that you do, and you will. Well, I started telling myself that I did, though I didn't really believe it. And then all of a sudden, all these stories started to come to me. Well, the stories were always there. I had closed the door on them.
But let me give you another analogy. When you look at somebody and you share that look that has a lot of feeling around it, whatever the situation may be, and they've said nothing, but it may as well have been a paragraph explanation of everything that just happened, what they were feeling, where it came from, and what their thoughts are as to how that's going to go forward.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. You're just sharing. The information is there. The information was exchanged at another level, except you acknowledged it. Well, we get so caught up in our paradigm of what is thinking, right, that we have these rules of what you do or do not know as it pertains to thinking, but yet you'll exchange, relay, interpret, and accept information on a whole other level outside of that paradigm.
Uh-huh. So I accept everything. Good. Everything good.
That may be our show for next week.
Actually, it just may be. But this was such a great show. And thank you, Mark, for wrapping it up with me. And thank you, Mike, for being with us on the show. And I thank all of you for being part of this show along with all of us. I am Filippo Voltaggio, and along with Mark Lejeune, our producer, and Dorothy Lee Donahue, our producer, and all the people that make up Life Changes, thank you for being part of our show, part of the changes we all wish to see in the world. Ciao, everyone.
You have been listening to Life Changes with Filippo, with the Master of Change, Filippo Voltaggio. Listen live every Monday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the BBS Radio Network, and visit us online at lifechangeswithfilippo.com. That's Filippo, Filippo. Today's show has been made possible in part by our sponsors, Ionways Water Systems, Change Your Water, Change Your Life, and Love and Miracles with Dorothy Lee Donahue. To learn more about them, visit the sponsor page of our website. Once again, join us here next week as we consciously explore and embrace the only constant, life changes.